Welcome back. So, as mentioned earlier in the course, writing has tone. It's not just the words that you use and the vocabulary and the grammar, but the tone of your writing also. So, this part of the course will focus on how you can try and ensure that the tone that you're using within your email covers your audience in every way that you possibly can make it try and fit. So, the tone of the email has to convey the attitude of whatever you're writing. But obviously, no matter what the situation is, it could be urgency, it may be some form of annoyance, maybe you're requesting something, or maybe your previous email has been ignored. Whatever the situation is, you want to try and convey a positive attitude wherever possible. Okay, so um, the right tone in writing typically, there's no sort of complete concise list for everything that needs to be in the tone of a written email or report, but these five things are fundamental. And the first one is to be confident in your writing, but not be arrogant or not come across as being arrogant. And this is something we'll be talking about in the coming slides. Be courteous and sincere. Stress the benefits for the reader rather than, I want this, I need that, or maybe if it's more of a sort of persuading or selling aspect or angle that you're going for, you want to be really pushing on the benefits rather than just the facts or the details. The benefits for the reader, if they respond to you, is going to get a far faster response than if you're just saying, I need this, this, and this by this time. Write at an appropriate level of difficulty, and I've got a very good example that I'll be sharing with you for this, and also use appropriate emphasis and subordination. So, this list of five are the main points that we're going to be covering, how to achieve them, and how to make your writing the best it can be, given those five sets of criteria, which I believe are essential. Okay, see you in the next slide. So, to begin with, displaying humble confidence. Now, it might sound like a bit of an oxymoron, but this is truly something that is quite difficult to achieve the balance for. But this is directly where you want to be at. You want to be confident, but also with an element of humbleness in there too. So, how can you achieve that? Well, be certain or prepare to ensure certainty in your written material to influence your reader. It's to do with your credibility as well. So you've got to have certainty, you've got to have confidence, but then you've got to sort of strike a balance with modesty as well within your writing. Whatever the situation is, there's no situation where politeness won't be a benefit to you. Maybe you're angry about something, maybe something hasn't been done that should have been done and you're chasing it. But by being polite, even in that scenario, the reader, if you think of it, if you put if you look at it from the audience's point of view, or your reader's point of view, they will really respect you if you manage to maintain your level of politeness and courtesy and humbleness, even in difficult or challenging situations. Okay, so a bad example, for example, would be you must agree that our services will meet your needs. Okay, now this is more of a sales example. Maybe it's true. Maybe you have the best product or service in the world, and you're trying to say, look, it's perfect for you. You must agree that it will meet your needs. But okay, now this is not being humble. This is, in fact, is sort of giving the recipient a bit of an order. It's telling them they must do something. They don't have to do anything. No one must do something apart from you, really. We can't force anyone to do anything. So saying they must do something is quite strong. What you could do to make that sort of more humble and modest would be to use something like this. We do our utmost, and I love this word, utmost. The utmost is the most you could possibly do. So you're being very humble here. We do our utmost to ensure that our products will cater to your complete requirements. So this is going about it from the other angle, and this is saying that you are doing everything for them. So it's much better received if it's this way round. Now, courteous and sincerity. Obviously, whatever the situation, as I mentioned, we have to remain courteous and sincere. So, to do this, well, we always need to sort of keep our eye on ensuring that we never sound condescending. And maybe you don't want to sound condescending, maybe you don't mean to sound condescending, but some people can sound condescending depending on the words that they use. Okay, being respectful and honest, readers will be more willing to accept your message. Now, I'll give you an example of this. Here we have, please read all the instructions carefully, otherwise you will experience errors. Now, the capital letters, again, as I mentioned earlier on in the course, is a massive no-no. But also what this is implying is that the reader doesn't, or potentially doesn't always, read everything carefully, so much so that you have had to write it in capital letters to drum home the fact that they need to read it carefully. So in a way, you're showing that you don't trust them, you have little faith in them. I'm reading into this one sentence quite a lot, but I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from and where some people might, the gist that they might take from it, which would probably be incorrect. So take care when you're writing sentences like this and change them. Please follow the instructions to ensure smooth operation. And here's an example of where we give the benefit, and we are sort of giving them some sort of advice, a suggestion, but we've added a please to begin with. And also, yeah, we're not saying so that you don't experience errors. We're just saying so that there is a smooth operation. So you're sort of talking about things in the third person. And when you're mentioning or using the third person, it's great, especially if you're giving instructions or if there's anything negative. Rather than using you should do this, you should do that, or you shouldn't do this. So yeah, try and use please, definitely, and make it more of a suggestion and give the benefit as well for the reader. Now, moving on from that, stressing the benefits for the reader is key. It'll help you to get things done far more quickly. Look at it from the reader's perspective, like what's in it for them. If you want to look at it that way, what's in it for them? Either a positive or something detrimental that might happen. For example, please return the paperwork to me by 10 a.m. tomorrow so that we can get this application processed for you. So something positive. I've used the you there because I want to, show that I'm actually doing it for them. It's a positive use of the word. Um, and it shows that you care for the reader as well, which is going to get them on your side, and they're going to want to work with you, which will be helpful for you in the long run. So, bad example, the order will be processed tomorrow. Now, there's nothing really wrong with that if you think about it, So, imagine you're processing the customer's order. The order will be processed tomorrow. Okay, fair enough. But you could make that so much nicer by changing it slightly. I will process your order first thing tomorrow. Now, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if you're letting them know that you're going to at least try and do it first thing in the morning, it shows that you care. It shows that you've given whatever you need to do for them utmost importance. And there at the end, you've given a benefit to ensure it is actioned as soon as possible. Now, this is a demonstration of fantastic customer service. It's the same thing, the order that you're doing, you're not doing any more work, and all you've done is change your words a little bit, but straight away the reader is going to be thankful, they're going to feel safer in your hands, and also you won't receive another email back from them saying, oh, when will it be actioned? This answers that preemptively. Okay, so it's a good example of how you can use it, especially in customer service. Now this one, right at an appropriate level of difficulty. Now this is a true story. I get called in to do a lot of coaching when it comes to, well, different aspects of communication, and this one was particularly email writing. It was someone in China, and they had an office in France, and there was a communication breakdown. Basically, the people in France didn't like the Chinese guy that I went on to coach, and the reason they didn't like him is because they thought he sounded arrogant and pig-headed. And the boss of the company actually sent me, or his direct manager sent me, the emails that he had been sending, and he agreed. They did come across really badly, and I agreed as well. And before I met the guy, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I let myself in for? This guy sounds horrible. But when I met him, he was actually one of the loveliest guys I've ever met. Really nice, genuine, sweet guy. But the problem was the words he was using, he wasn't using correctly, and he was obviously looking words up in the dictionary, English words in the dictionary that he was using incorrectly, and he was using words that just sounded really condescending. My advice to you here is to write an appropriate level of difficulty to the people that you're writing to. Now, in my example of this guy that I was coaching, he had the same sort of skill level as the guys in France. They were sort of, yeah, they were doing the same role, but just in different countries, and they were different nationalities. But the problem there was, so he wasn't writing in a level of difficulty that was sort of above their skill set. The technical language and jargon they probably understood, but he was using words that he didn't know how to use. Okay, so first thing, don't use words that you don't know how to use, definitely, just to sound, intelligent. It's not a competition. We don't write emails to show how intelligent we are. We do want to build credibility, but you lose credibility as soon as you start using words incorrectly. So make sure that whatever words you're using, whatever sentence structures you're using, you are 100% certain you're using them correctly. Otherwise, find another way of writing it. But when it does come to jargon, do ensure that you know that the other people that you're writing to can understand that jargon. Because if you're using jargon and people don't understand it, you're going to break rapport straight away. It's going to take them time. They're going to be unhappy because you're wasting their time, because they have to look up on the internet the jargon that you're using. So yeah, write at an appropriate level of difficulty for your reader, and also to build your own credibility. Here's some examples. This action is necessitated with urgent effect to avoid immobilizing related tasks. This is an example of what the guy I was coaching was writing, and completely unnecessary. You probably don't know what that means, and a lot of people wouldn't. People have to read that 4 or 5 times to actually understand what it means. And what it means is simply this: kindly action the request as soon as possible to avoid delays. Much nicer, much more simple, and yeah, it'd probably get a faster response. So, stress the benefits for the reader and write at an appropriate level of difficulty. Okay, now active and passive voice, extremely important, and I touched on it a few moments ago in one of the previous slides. But there is a time and a place for active and passive voice. Now, neither of them is better or worse than the other. I often get asked, should I always use this or should I always use that? The answer is use them both in different situations. So English verbs have two voices, active and passive. Active voice is clearer and more direct. So if you write in the active voice, most of the time it will be shorter. Your sentences will be shorter. It's clearer as well. Passive voice sentences use more words, they can be vague and lead to audience confusion. You'll often see passive voice in legal contracts or any contract, basically. You'll see if people want to try and sound intelligent, they'll also try and use the passive voice more. Resumes also can use passive voice. There's certain circumstances where passive voice is used and is essential, and for reasons which I will explain in a second. Okay, so just to give you some examples of active and passive. So active voice, you focus on the subject. So here, for example, it is Robert Greene. So Robert Greene developed a process for constructing new solar homes. The focus is on Robert Greene. He is the subject. Okay, now if we write that sentence in the passive voice, a new process for developing solar homes was developed by Robert Greene. I paused there because you could actually completely remove by Robert Greene. He's moved to the end of the sentence now. He's no longer that essential. This is in the passive voice. The focus is on the new process for developing solar homes. Okay, so that's an example there. Now, this is a use case scenario. Imagine if I am in the office and I am trying to photocopy some documents and I break the photocopier. I'm then told that to get it fixed, and I need it fixed quickly, to get it fixed, I've got to email the whole office so that IT will pick up the email and then come and fix the photocopier. Now, do I really want to email everyone in the office saying, I broke the photocopier? This is the active voice. You know it's the active because I is at the beginning. Okay, obviously not. So I would write it in the passive voice. The passive voice is great if you want to omit the subject, which is, this is a perfect example. The photocopier has been broken. If I really wanted to, I could say the photocopier has been broken by me, but of course I'm not going to do that. So I just leave it as the photocopier has been broken. It says the same thing. Much the same as, maybe you delete all of your client's data. Rather than saying, I deleted all the client's data, you would just say, oh, the client's data has been deleted in the passive voice. So if it's negative news, use the passive. If it's positive news, use the active. That's one rule. And this just sort of clarifies it as well. So yeah, if the active voice is the subject of the sentence, is the doer, it makes your sentences more interesting and easier to understand and also makes them shorter. Whereas passive voice, it makes it slightly unclear, makes it slightly longer, but it keeps the identity of the subject a secret. Okay. Now, when to use them, here are the other rules. So the first one that I mentioned is when you are delivering bad news. It's the first one. When the subject is not important or you don't know the subject. Yeah, maybe you don't know who they are, in which case you can't state them in the sentence, use the passive. When you aren't sure who is responsible for an action, so maybe there's multiple parties and you're not sure who. So again, this circumstance would be for the passive. If the focus attention is on the object rather than the subject. So with the new solar homes example, the focus is on those new solar homes, not the subject. So yeah, again, this is the fourth sort of main reason or main time that you would use the passive voice. Okay, little quiz for you just to see if you can remember those and how well you can remember these. I'd like you to select the sentence that is in the active voice. Okay, so first one, is it miracle cure is recommended by doctors or doctors recommend miracle cure? If you'd like more time to think, please pause at any of these. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going. Okay, so yeah, the answer is doctors recommend miracle cure. It's the active voice. The subject goes at the beginning. Next one. The company requires staff to watch a safety video every year. Or the staff are required by the company to watch a safety video every year. The answer is the company. And already with both of these, you can see the sentence is shorter. And yeah, this one especially, the staff are required by the company to watch a safety video every year. Very long-winded. But if you need it to be like that, then passive is fine. But in an email, wherever possible, use the active. So more common than not, people will try and use the active in an email because it's shorter. Okay, the treaty is being signed by the two kings, or the two kings are signing the treaty. Which one is it? I hope you got it right. The two kings are signing the treaty. Next one. The kangaroo carried her baby in her pouch, or the baby was carried by the kangaroo in her pouch. It's obviously the first one. The kangaroo is the subject carrying the baby in her pouch. And the last one, scientists have conducted experiments to test the hypothesis, or experiments have been conducted to test the hypothesis. Well, I hope you're getting the idea by now and that you have chosen the first one. The scientists are the subject, therefore, that is the active voice.